Zaffe used the 4 key words of isolation, anchoring, distraction, and sublimation as different ways that we can hide the truth, and that truth being the fact that our lives are meaningless is kind of the main gist of what he was writing about. And each of those, isolation meaning the repressing of the truth, which is basically like the dismissal of all disturbing thoughts, things we don't want to think about, which would be the thought of meaninglessness, because if we dwell too much on the thought of being like our lives being meaningless, that can cause a lot of panic and can cause feelings and thoughts that we don't want to just dwell on. So isolation is just choosing to not dwell or kind of even believe in that idea. And then anchoring, the way I took this example of anchoring was kind of like when you're at your house, especially as a kid, that's the one he kind of gave, is like parents and a home as a child. It kind of protects you from the harshness of what's outside. As a kid, when you were home and when you were with your parents, it's where you felt the safest. It's where the struggles and the scariness of outside couldn't really affect you. And that's kind of what anchoring is. It's staying in an area, like a set boundary to where you feel protected in a way. And then there's distraction, which is using other things to allow you to lose focus on stuff. So with the example he used was, if a little girl was asking too many questions, her grandparents or mom might be like, oh, look at the dog, to distract her from the questions she's asking. And lastly, sublimation, which basically was showing that we have talents and artistic abilities and things like that we can use to shy away from the suffering and the harshness of the world. We can make great things. We have the ability to make and become something great even through suffering. And the main one we're focusing on for this discussion is distraction. Distraction meaning is the search for meaning in our lives, basically a distraction for the meaninglessness of it. And when I was thinking about this question, it's kind of hard because you want to say yes, the search for meaning in your life is a distraction. You constantly are trying to find meaning to try to almost deny the fact, or to get your mind off the fact that it might be meaningless. But I feel like it's not completely a distraction, because most of the time, people who are more open-minded, you basically do know, okay, my life doesn't have undeniable meaning. There's always it really isn't going to go anywhere. I mean, we have this life, but what we really do here won't always make the biggest impact. So you have the feeling of meaninglessness. But I think the search for meaning isn't as much of a distraction as it's more of a reason. Because if we just constantly dwelled on the meaninglessness of our lives and we didn't have any search for meaning, then we wouldn't do anything. You kind of have to have that desire to find meaning, desire to have purpose, to use as perseverance to move forward. And I wouldn't say it's technically a distraction. It's more of a reason to live, basically. We're not neglecting the fact that there's no meaning, that we're not neglecting the fact that there might be nothing further for us, but we're finding a reason to live, because if we had no search for that meaning in our lives, then why are we here? Basically, it's not necessarily a distraction, more of a reason and an ability to just go out and live your life.